why are you so passionate about Manchester, Simran?
It is the greatest city on earth. For me, we just create the best people. And for me, I think we live in a society today where we don't allow for civil conversation to take place, where I believe a lot of problems in society can be solved with simple communication. You don't have to agree with what someone says. A great comment we actually got from last year's conference was,
so we're here at the club in Manchester with one of our media partners. What's one of the benefits of us adding podcasting into this year?
For me, what podcasting allows us to do is it allows us to break free of the limitations of the TED Talk. It's about bringing Manchester businesses in together to build the greatest TED event that Manchester has ever seen.
Because you never know where those conversations might lead. So why are you so passionate about Manchester, Simran? Why are we doing this podcast, TEDx Northern Quarter?
I'm passionate about Manchester because it is the greatest city on earth. This is the city where the atom was split. It's the city where IVF was invented, and so many other amazing things that have come out of Manchester. And for me, we just create the best people. There's no city like Manchester. I've been to 34 countries and so many cities in those countries, and I've never met a city where the community comes together to celebrate entrepreneurs, creatives, business minds, academics, professors, and so many other amazing people, where we just create such wonderful people worthy of standing onto a TED stage.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Manchester seems to have a lot of personality. Like before we did TEDx last year, I think when I came to the TEDx, or when we were doing the TEDx last year in 2025, that was like my 4th or 5th visit to Manchester. Now I've been here a lot more in this last year between doing the first one and the second one. But each area seems to have its own sort of personality, doesn't it?
It's perfect to describe it. Manchester is so small, but yet so much personality when you walk through the main city centre. Like we were talking about this before we did this with London, and how it took me nearly an hour and 40 minutes to get from London city centre if you was to walk to Shoreditch. And London has those things. London has different areas which have all got their own personalities. Yet with Manchester, you can be in Northern Quarter, which is the alternative punk, creative graffiti area of our city, but then within 5 minutes you're in Deansgate, which is kind of where the busy bee working, cocktail bars, nightlife element of the city is. And then 2 seconds after that you're in Spinningfields, which is your more affluent, the ivy, London-esque skyscraper aesthetic and posh restaurants. And it's so interesting how within Manchester you can be within completely demographic and different communities, all within just the span of a 15-minute walk. It's actually insane. And I think that's what makes the city so special, is because it's just a melting pot of so many great people, cultures, aesthetics, vibes, all within just such a short just city square, effectively.
And are you from Manchester?
Yeah, I'm born and bred in Tameside, my friend. Or I was born in a place that I'm not proud to say where I'm from. I'm from a place called Ashton-under-Lyne, or as we like to call it, Trashton-under-Lyne. I'm from the council estates in Tameside, which is one of the boroughs of Manchester. And it is quite an impoverished area. That is where I'm from, because, you know, every city has it. I mean, London has Croydon, Manchester has Moss Side and Tameside, or Rochdale, depending on where you want to say, depending on your perspective. By the way, no hate to Rochdale, because I live in Rochdale. The nice bit, not the shit bit. I have to point that out. But Manchester, I love this city. I was born and bred here. Even though I come from a mixed race family with different heritage across 2 different countries, to me, Manchester is so special because I got to witness the early stages of Manchester now going into more of the urbanised, I will say London gentrification of Manchester, because now Manchester is becoming the second London of the UK, but it's also becoming one of the hotspots for tech and creativity in the whole of Europe. Manchester's actually been voted the most creative city in Europe, which I think is insane, but it's unsurprising. Like on the way here, you saw music videos or videos being shot. You see artists painting street art in the street. You see graffiti artists. You see poets walking around. And you've been to Manchester enough times now that you're an adopted Mancunian to realise how, if you walk in Northern Quarter, we've got arts nights, poetry nights, you've got jazz nights, band nights, and like we were just at Bunny Jackson's before, which has live country music while you get 99p chicken wings. But
I missed country music night. That was
oh, you did miss country music night. That's a big thing at Bunny Jackson's. And for me, Manchester just melts and creates creativity. And from creativity, you get entrepreneurship, you get science, you get education, which just breeds amazing people, which is why we have never struggled to find amazing people for TEDx.
No, you open your little black book and people just appear. When it comes to the Manchester Continued, and like we haven't striven to just put Manchester people on,
of course,
but and at the same time we also want to honour the people from Manchester and give them a voice as well. I mean, if you take a look at some of the people I had last year, Molly in particular, I mean, they were amazing with what they're doing with Short Supply, the CIC. So to give people a voice and to be able to support charities like Feed Manchester and those kind of things, because, for instance, I know you've spoken about this before, you suffered a period of time when you were homeless, and there's a lot of homelessness in Manchester, like there are a lot of cities, but, it's important, I think, to be able to use the voices of things like a TEDx platform to better enable people that aren't just celebrities to come on and take part, but also to give people the opportunity to learn a little bit more about Manchester.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there, Andy, about why I love doing this so much. For me, I love people. Like a big part of why I started this is, and it goes back to the fact I mentioned earlier before, I've been to 34 countries, I've been to cultures across all over the world, I've been to all over Europe and seen the wonderful marvels of architecture that European Renaissance created. I've been all across the African continent where I've seen extreme poverty, but I've also seen the wonderful beauty of Africa, because people have misconceptions about what Africa's like, but I've also been all over the Caribbean, I've been all over Asia. And one thing I've realized, no matter where I've been in the world, whether it's been in the poorest villages in India, where I've set foot, where my family are from, or whether I've been in megalodon, multi-million-pound Silicon Valley-style European cities, is that people are ultimately an amazing species of creatures that all have ideas. And we pass people every single day in the streets that go on to do amazing things. People that change the world. You know how passionate I am about this when I say, we live in a society today where the loudest voices get the most attention, but the loudest voices don't always have the greatest of intentions, especially now we live in the digital age with TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, where sometimes the people that are on those platforms don't always have the best intentions. And for me, it's the smaller voices that you walk through in society every single day. Like one of our speakers this year, Dr. Rajan Bedji, who I met at the Great British Entrepreneurial Awards, who is a literal rocket scientist that helped develop some of the most amazing satellite technology that we've ever seen. And you wouldn't think it, because the man's got something like 31 Instagram followers. Like, you wouldn't think that looking at him, but I just met him in passing, and that man's doing stuff that changes things. Or Nicola Bark, one of 2025 speakers, you wouldn't think it looking at Nicola, the world's leading UK left-way boxing champion, but yet she almost died of a brain tumour. And you wouldn't think that.
And her day job's at HSBC.
And her day, works at HSBC as a project manager. Yet she's a female boxing champion. Imagine working next to her at a desk and going, so what do you do? I box for a living. I'm also a left-way champion.
It's that crossover between what people see and what people do and how they are as individuals is so interesting as well, isn't that? Once you really start to get to know people, you can get really curious about the perspectives that they have, or the points of view, their opinions, the way they see the world. And I find that really fascinating when it comes to getting to understand, our speakers and the people that we work with. And I mean, like, how many times have we been approached with, can I be a speaker every month? I
mean, we had one 2 days ago.
They still keep coming thick and fast. We are at the moment like 75 days away from the 2026 podcast. We're still being messaged by people going, how do I get to speak on the stage? Like, we chose our speakers last December, and we're sat here right now just coming up to the edge of June. And we had like 150, 180 applicants at least.
It was 200. 200
oh,
plus, which... you've hit the nail on the head really there, which is, it's insane. I love people. And you talked about difference of opinions, and that's what TED was about. It's about ideas. And for me, I think we live in a society today where we don't allow for civil conversation to take place, where I believe a lot of problems in society can be solved with simple communication. You don't have to agree with what someone says. A great comment we actually got from last year's conference was by a good friend of mine, Marek Smala, who runs an event, and he said one thing he really loved, it was his first TED event, was even though he didn't necessarily agree with what some of the speakers said, he said he liked the fact that this is just my idea. You don't have to agree with this, but it's an idea. And ideas, again, I know I quote him a lot, but the wonderful Robin Williams, who's no longer with us, is that ideas can change the world, because every great innovation and every great thing that has ever happened in humanity has come from someone who had an idea. And we don't platform conversation where people can discuss different ideas anymore. And that's why we look for such a diverse range of different thoughts and ideas when selecting the speakers, because it might not necessarily be someone you agree with. There might be some controversy surrounding that person, but at the end of the day, they have an idea, and that's what it's about. And how can we move forward as a society if we can't have conversations about those ideas? Because ideas are about innovation, and innovation is how we move forward as a species, both good and bad. And we need to be able to talk about these things. The TED platform has housed people you might not necessarily agree with before, but at the end of the day, they're entitled to their ideas. And ultimately, it's all about ideas worth spreading.
So we're here at the club in Manchester with one of our media partners.
Yes.
And like we're taking the stage a bit further, rather than it just being about the tools. We're bringing the podcast series in. We're speaking to previous speakers. We're speaking to some of our current speakers, some of our supporters. Like for you, what's one of the benefits of us adding podcasting into this year?
For me, what podcasting allows us to do is it allows us to break free of the limitations of the TED Talk. Whilst the TED Talks are the main attraction of what we do, and it's what our speakers spend months preparing for, the practice,
hours.
But it is only 15 minutes. Yeah. And one thing that our coaches really hammer home is that, you've got to convey this passion, this idea, this thought that you have, that you might have built your entire career around or your entire identity in 15 minutes. That is a very hard thing to condense down to. And what I think the podcast allows us to do is have a more prolonged conversation with these individuals about what drives them, what motivates them. Because ultimately our attendees are coming to see these people because they want to hear what they have to say. And the podcast allows us to give them access to these people in a longer format where they can learn more about them. But also it allows us to challenge the status quo of what can be possible with a TEDx event as well, and allow us to do something different beyond just the realm of traditional podcasting, which is two people having a conversation right this now. What it allows us to do is allow for more ideas worth sharing to be made accessible to the general public, which I'll allow you to go into a bit more detail out of that will take place as, but also allow us to look at new things that we can do with the podcasting platform to make our whole TEDx event even greater in the future.
And that's the interesting thing. I really resonates with wanting to get to understand people a little bit more than their 15 minutes. One of my friends, Professor Keon West, was one of our speakers last year, and he's written a book on the science of racism. There's literally 80 scientific papers have been published with his name all over them in terms of, delving into the science of racism. And yet he really only touched the surface of his brain and what was underneath that. So this is why I love, when we were talking about this, I love the idea of doing this podcast series.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. And I think we can proudly also say that we're going to be taking the podcasting platform with the live production of the podcast present at TEDx Northern Quarter 2026, where we'll be giving attendees the chance not only to be part of our podcast journey, but also give our speakers the chance, once they step off that stage, to just capture that raw emotion. It's very rare you see what a speaker's like. Like last year, we went up into the mezzanine, and yes, we're all supportive, hugging each other. The audience don't see that, and we get to capture that raw authenticity, almost like a boxer coming out of the ring after that big match that they spent a year preparing for in that moment. And we're so happy to be working with a great Manchester brand again, because for me, it's about bringing Manchester businesses in together to build the greatest TED event that Manchester has ever seen. It's amazing to be working with a production company like the CLUB Manchester to really just not only help us tell these stories, but also add a whole new layer to what is possible with podcasting using the TED platform, because the TED platform gives you so much freedom for telling stories of amazing individuals. So that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah, so we're going to be all over the podcasting. We've got lots of dates lined up coming to the club. We've got the club coming to the TEDx, so they'll be speaking with the speakers and with the audience members. So if you are coming to the TEDx, you will have the opportunity potentially of booking a little bit of time with Stefan, maybe a question or two, to find out what would your idea be worth spreading. What is it that you're really passionate about? Like, how do we get to understand you as a member of the audience because you never know where those conversations might lead.
Exactly. Everyone has ideas. We want to hear from our audience, and what the Club Manchester is really going to allow us to do is for you to have your idea worth spreading be shared as well. It's not just about the speakers. Everyone has an idea worth spreading. It was one of the founding principles that led to me want to create this for Manchester, to partner with someone like you who understands this world and the power, you more than anyone, Andy, know the power that a good talk or a good speaker can have on someone's life. It was a good speaker that spoke to me at 20 years old in my university that led me to build the business that led to us to have this conversation today. And that's what I really want to power, is enable people to share their idea worth spreading with this partnership.
Awesome. Thanks, Simran.
Thank you, Andy.